Hi everyone, thanks for making the left turn for today, Saturday, May 27th, 2017. I'm George Farrar and we're on Timuquana Road, headed westbound. And it's a beautiful morning and we see ahead of us a church and we're about to wind down Timuquana Road westbound to 103rd Street. We're approaching 103rd Street where it will become 103rd Street at Wesconnett Boulevard. I've got a lot to tell you about on this episode of History Jacksonville. I'm going to share with you my memories of the West Side in the 1990s. And we'll talk about our history. As you can see to the right, what a beautiful home, country house. And we're now on 103rd Street. We've just passed Wesconnett Boulevard. And we're now approaching Blanding Boulevard. And what I'd like to do before we talk about back in the day, back in the 90s, I want to talk with you about back in the 50s. We're going to approach Blanding Boulevard, and I'm going to show you 103rd Street from the vantage point of Blanding Boulevard in the 1950s. Back then, the roads were narrower, times were simpler back then, and so here we are now, back in 2017, and I want to start talking with you a little bit about my life here in Jacksonville. I think you're going to enjoy it. Now, where we see the errands and the shopping center, that used to be a Pick and Save. And before that, there was a Sears. My grandmother worked at the Blanding and 103rd Street Sears before the Orange Park Mall opened. And it opened the year that I was born in 1975. Now, as we approach Jamie's, if you see the Dollar Tree off to the left, there used to be an Arby's there. Now, 103rd Street, there's a lot going on 103rd Street 24/7. You know, I know growing up, I was eating a lot of fast food, a lot of Arby's, a lot of Burger King, a lot of McDonald's on 103rd Street. But, you know, it wasn't just eating and driving. In the mid-1990s, as I was going to community college in the years 1993, 1994, and 1995, I enjoyed a lot of things that 103rd Street had to offer, a lot of entertainment options. Now, back in the day, there was a Blockbuster Video. I would rent videos, and I would always be trying to get them back on time to avoid the late fee. Now, you see this empty parking lot. Well, if you can imagine, tons of cars, people going in and out, lots of traffic, lots of commotion to get those videos. Now, there was a movie theater. At one point, the Walmart actually faced 103rd Street, and a theater, first called Cineplex Odeon and then Litchfield Cinemas. It was catty corner to the Walmart, and I really enjoyed it. Spent a lot of great times watching movies with my father. Great memories at that time. And now, of course, we passed the Walmart. We're going down 103rd Street. There used to be a Western Auto in that shopping center over there. And we're about to approach the Charles Webb Wesconnett Public Library. And I want to talk with you briefly about the Webb Wesconnett Library. A lot of great times for me in the library. A lot of borrowing books as a kid and even today. Lots and lots of books. Going onto the computer in later years, when that computer option was available for internet use and for printing things out, and early voting. And the Webb Wesconnett Library was actually named for Charles Webb, a city councilman, and his wife, Sylvia Webb, later served as city council person and helped to get that library built. And then this is the Church of the Epiphany, where that racetrack gas station is now. At one point, there was a church, catty corner with the library. So as we go further down 103rd Street, I'll relay some thoughts, some different thoughts about what used to be where. We're approaching Interstate 295. Now, just to the left, there was at one point a Shell station, a Shell gas station. And now here we are, I-295, going under the I-295 overpasses. And we're going to really hit memory lane in just a moment as we approach Firestone Road. Yes, George Farrar, class of 1993. I was a senior in the year 1993 at Forest High School. I graduated June 1993 from NB Forest High School. We know it today as Westside High. Now, there was controversy with the naming of NB Forest, Nathan Bedford Forest. Now, Jeb Stuart Middle School was the original Forest High School, and then this school was built in the late 1960s, and there was history to the name, a lot of controversy, people disagreed. Ultimately, I think the right decision was made, and it became Westside High School. And so I'm going to share with you my days at what we know as Westside High, but many of us, of course, growing up, experienced as Forest High School. And so there's a lot of great things that happened at this school, right off Firestone to the left, off 103rd Street. You know, I graduated June of '93, and I was named Forest High School class of 1993's future leader, along with Arlene Nobleza. And special time, great folks, exceptional, amazing teachers. I was on the Brain Brawl team. The episodes of Brain Brawl, the game, it was a game, competition, academic competition, would be broadcast on Channel 7, WJCT, Channel 7. And I was kind of like the history, social studies expert on the team. And of course, here is what the yearbook back then, my yearbook from back then. So now that we've made that little stop, we're going to keep going forward here on 103rd. A lot of fast food, Burger King, Dairy Queen, Taco Bell. There, further down is McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, of course. And then as we go further down, we of course have the Chic. That's been there forever. And the Pizza Hut. It used to be a Pizza Hut. Now it's something different. And then we just had approached Rowley's Hamburgers. That building has been sitting there abandoned for a long, long time. Now, in the 1990s, when I came out to 103rd Street, my dad and I were big fans of Rowley's. Particularly, I liked the fries. I didn't much care for the hamburgers. And there were these umbrella things. You'd sit outside, basically, and eat, or drive through and then take your food home. Of course, though, over time, it didn't last. And of course, though, this shopping center has been there quite a while. A lot of different changes over the years. There's a Subway there. Subway for subs, sandwiches. And off to the left, as we approach Ricker, which is my cutoff actually to go home, we're going to reminisce about where the BP is now was an Amoco. And at the Amoco at 103rd Street and Ricker Road, in the year 1994, a gallon of regular Amoco gasoline was $1.19. And it didn't cost a lot because I had a 1977 Toyota Corolla that my dad bought me in the year 1993. Learned to drive in 93, was driving all around on 103rd Street in 93, 94, 95, before I went off to Florida State in 95. So, you know, passing the Publix, if I could just say one thing about the 103rd Street Publix, and we'll say it right here and we'll say it right now, they need to get back to the basics. And that's all I want to say about that. Publix got a lot of good things. The folks there are great. The folks at the 103rd Street Publix are excellent, but the management needs to get them realigned, get them focused back to the basics. All right, well, I have to talk about these kinds of things because our business here on the West Side is done on boulevards and roads and streets. like 103rd Street. Maybe you don't live off of 103rd Street. I live off 103rd Street further down towards past 118th Street in the Burgert's Creek subdivision. And right now, as we in the morning light head west on 103rd Street, I want to talk to you a little bit more about myself, which, there's just so much that's changed in some ways, but so much that's the same here. I can remember back in the year 1989, my family had formalized a divorce. And my father and I, we left the apartment in Mandarin, where we were living for a year. My stepmother and my half-brother, John, they would stay in Mandarin on one side of the river. And in 1989, I moved to the west side. Initially, I lived off of Roosevelt Boulevard. In the fall of 1989, I became aware that some different things were going on. I didn't know everything that was happening. But my dad was getting me ready for something big. It was a huge move. It was a move to where I live today. Now, I lived in Tallahassee and Orlando from the years latter half of 1995. Lived in Tallahassee until around the summer of 2001, and then moved down to Orlando in 2001, and ultimately I moved back up here in 2005. Well, my father had built in a subdivision, the Gertz Creek subdivision, a very nice house on the shore of a very nice lake. And in the year 1989, in December of 1989, my dad brought me out. We got off of I-295. We got onto 103rd Street. We headed out to Ricker and down 118th Street. And I got a chance to see where I would be living. A beautiful house. And then, just as everything was coming together to move into the house, it snowed. It snowed in December 1989. And so that delayed the move in until after Christmas 1989. Special times. I guess in a lot of ways, part of coming out to the west side and living with my father in this really nice house, which was really a step above anywhere, I was afforded a lot of great opportunities growing up in the 90s on the west side of Jacksonville. This was truly an amazing place. If you think back, this was before the internet as we know it. If I wanted music, I went down to Turtles Records and Tapes. If I wanted to watch something neat, I'd go to a movie on 103rd Street at the Litchfield Cinemas. I would be, if I wanted to really get something for television at home, I'd rent a video. Now, of course, off to the left, we see the go-kart raceway. And so much was happening back then, and such great folks. And I'm excited, even now, thinking back to what all was going on back then. The 90s were something else. So we're going further down 103rd Street, and shortly we'll be at where there's a lot of construction, where the Florida Department of Transportation is building the First Coast Expressway. It's going to be a tollway connecting up Interstate 10 with Blanding Boulevard down in Middleburg, and you're going to have an opportunity to see the construction of the 103rd Street overpass that will ultimately go over that expressway. It's funny, I always like to say, from that Steve Miller Band song, time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. And in each episode I bring you of History Jacksonville, when I can, I try to bring you that amazing mix of the past, the present, and I talk about the future. And there's our future road ahead. So we'll approach State Road 23, where we'll come to a stop. and I'm going to talk with you for just a moment before we head out towards Cecil Field about what's coming up on the next season of History Jacksonville. I have a lot planned. We are reaching the end of this season of History Jacksonville. We'll resume episodes of History Jacksonville starting in September 2017. I'll be focusing on more landmarks. I'll be looking at Union Terminal. I'll be looking at our Main Street Bridge. I'll be looking at our rediscovered downtown and changes that have been going on downtown with some historical renovations, revitalization that's been occurring. I'll be looking at some different events. Now, of course, these shows are relatively tentative, with a lot of different things permitting, a lot of wheels in motion, so to speak. But I'd like to look at the Great Fire of 1901, and I would like to look at Axe Handle Saturday, that tragic event that occurred in 1960 downtown. Also, in time in History Jacksonville, I want to looking at great people, great Jacksonvillians. And I want to bring these things to you, and I'm looking forward to it. And so what I'd like to do is, as we approach Cecil Field, just talk with you briefly about the uniqueness of Jacksonville and how 103rd Street at one point played, and in a lot of ways still plays, a very vital link with not only what was at the one time the military, but also into the future. Now, as we look to the future, we see this big, huge facility. Looks like some sort of warehouse facility. A lot of growth is occurring on the west side of Jacksonville, and we are seeing that now. But back many, many years ago, there was a Cecil Field Naval Air Station. It was built for the Naval Air facilities. And also, of course, we know that we still have Naval Air Station Jacksonville off of Roosevelt Boulevard. This, to the left, was Cecil Field. It's now known generally as Cecil Airport, Cecil Commerce Center. Until it was decommissioned in 1999, there were planes that would take off from Cecil Field and go all over North Florida, all over the place. This is a picture of some jets in 1962. So there's a vital link that 103rd Street and Normandy Boulevard had, linking up Jacksonville at that time. I-295 wouldn't come until the late 1960s. So for people who were trying, in early 1970s, but for people that were really trying to get out there onto the west side, these were the critical roads. Now, we're about to reach the end of the road, folks. We're about to reach the end of the road. You're going to see the end 134 highway sign in just a moment. I hope that you have liked what I've had to say and what I've had to bring you here on the Jack's Left channel, here on History Jacksonville. I want to thank you for watching History Jacksonville. We'll be back in September. I've got a lot ahead. Stay tuned. Take it easy. See you later.